Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Lizzo. Here. Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey.
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Here.
Thank you. We will go straight to public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you. Do we have anyone wishing to speak, Bridget?
Mayor and council, we have Joyce Long.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Long. Many of you may know me from last week, the last session I was here. I've lived and owned a home in Kirkwood for over 30 years and been a resident paying Kirkwood taxes and voting for city council members and mayor ever since that time. Last 2 weeks ago when I was here, I spoke to you about my daughter being signed up for 3 weeks of before and after care at Camp Kirkwood, but not for Camp Kirkwood itself. So after talking to several parents in the community, my daughter goes to one of the public schools here. And by the way, most of the parents thought it was a little crazy that this was what was going on, that there wouldn't be an exception for the website design being flawed because it didn't reject or question this selection. I've come back to discuss another issue that has come to my attention from the other parents, and they asked me to come and speak to you about this. And so I promised them that I would. As I mentioned before, I'm a family of two. It's just my child and myself. There is no additional parent for support or assistance. I work full time. Kirkwood is made up of working families, and most no longer have a stay-at-home parent to watch the children during the day. And as you've seen the real estate prices, there's probably a reason for that. The camp program is one of the most popular programs that the Kirkwood Parks and Recreation provides. In fact, it might be the #1 program. Currently, there are over 130 children on the wait list for the first 2 sessions of Camp Kirkwood. Now, I mentioned before that I was number 13 on the list for the age group of my child, but we still have over 130 children that aren't being taken care of. And also remember that when I signed up for Camp Kirkwood, or when I thought I was signing up, and really I was only signing up for before and after care and some other sessions, that within an hour and a half, the website had filled up. And it was crashing during that whole time because of the number of people hitting the site. But within an hour and a half, it had filled up and you had all these people on the wait list. This is typical of what happens every year. In fact, last year, when I was signing my child up for camp, one of the sessions, the sports camp, filled up in less than 5 minutes. Knowing that this happens every year, we need to increase the capacity of the camp. In fact, I would challenge you to increase the number of counselors and attendees even this year. We still have a few weeks before camp starts, and this would solve not only my issue, but an issue for 130 other children. What I was told is that they would consider it. Russ and I talked about it when we talked last week. And I understood that Russ was going to delegate it down to the appropriate manager, that no one overrides the park director's decisions. To be honest, that surprised me a bit. As a Kirkwood resident, it's my understanding that I was voting for this city council and members of this council and the mayor, not the park director. And so I was a little surprised that it all was on the park director. Gosh, at work, I would love that if I could always make all the decisions and never have a boss that asked me to change my mind or do something different. But I guess that's just the way it is. the way we have always done things is no longer good enough. We know that the Kirkwood schools have been projecting increases for future enrollment. And we need, as a city, to take this into account with our parks and recreation and with our camp. We need to think about, what do these children do during the day if they don't have a camp to go to? I'm here to ask to increase the enrollment for Camp Kirkwood, preferably starting this summer. Before I finish, I also want to bring one other item to your attention. On Monday, I received a note from a council member, which I had written to, and I quote, "I've just gotten off the phone with Russ Hawes, and he has indicated that you have found another camp for your daughter to attend during the time she was unable to get into Camp Kirkwood." Now, I say that not because I am trying to make Russ look bad. We had phone conversation. I understand sometimes, we talked about a lot of things. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. But I wanted to make sure that the council knew, and it was clear to everyone, that no, I don't have an option. I have checked, I have looked into this, and it's very difficult at this late date to find camp. And so, as I did mention to Russ, she will probably be going to before and after care. I'll try and figure out something with my employer, but Russ did graciously promise me that there would be activities for before and after care, and not just sending the kids in front of a video while they're waiting for their parents to pick them up. I also want to thank the council, because through this process, I've learned a lot. I used to think that council members ran for office out of a sense of obligation or wanting to do good. And maybe that's why each of you ran. But now I've understand, for me, it's probably more about a passion for correcting a wrong. You see, this is not the first time I've talked to Kirkwood about an issue. And the last time I had an issue, I did speak to Russ, and I was given an absolute no. And that was okay, because, we had a good conversation. And in that conversation, ultimately, in a face-to-face conversation, he was able to give me a very good, valid, logical reason of why he was saying no. And I agreed with him. And I let it drop. However, only to find out that 6 months, 9 months later, somebody asked for the same thing and got it. So I know that can't always be done. I know that sometimes life isn't fair. What I was really hoping that we would be able to come to some kind of middle ground and figure out a resolution to this, because there was probably some errors on both sides. But I will say that as I said, what it's taught me is that there are some issues, and now I understand why people run for council, is to correct those issues. So I do appreciate that you have taken the time to listen to me. I hope that this will have some meaning to it, and I hope that by representing other parents in the Kirkwood community, you will take this into consideration. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Mayor and council, there are no more public comments.
You. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? And seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. We'll go to unfinished business, Bill 10981A.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance granting a special use permit for a marijuana facility, medical marijuana facility, and accessory drive-through facility, and approving the major site plan at 10855 Manchester Road, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you. I'm going to go back initially to carry over from last meeting. Councilmember Ward was going to make a motion and about a sign, and we asked that staff word it up properly. So Councilmember Ward, if you want to make your motion, now's the time.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to section 1 of the ordinance to add condition number 24. Informational signs similar in size to ADA parking signs stating loud and disturbing noises are prohibited. Sections 17 through 69 and 70 shall be installed and maintained at locations determined by Public Service Department.
All right, is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? All right, seeing none, then all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, so the bill is amended accordingly. Other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Gibbons? Oh, that's right, go ahead.
I wanted to make a recommendation. And maybe this needs to be a motion, I guess, that on exiting from the bay, that it's a right turn only.
What, is there a specific section, just so we can look at it, if not?
Well, on the map, if you look at the map, exiting the bay, that it would be a right turn only.
You mean, on to Manchester? Is that what you mean? From that, from the westernmost curb cut? All right, so is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right, is there a second to
Second.
that?
I'm wondering if we
Well, I mean-
can Robert's Rules of Order, and maybe Mr. Stock can come up and talk about that for a minute.
All right, is there a motion to suspend Robert's rules?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. George? come on up.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just, in looking at this, we're gonna, if we're having a lot of cars lining here on the east side, that if we have a car that tries to exit on that east side, that there'd be a lot of congestion. My recommendation that we make exiting the bay right turn only, which means they go out the west curb cut.
Yeah, I understand, and I don't know that that has a real impact. I think, so your concern is if there's 9 vehicles queued up, so around the north side of the building, then the east side of the building, that if a car comes out and makes a left in the bi-directional, that they may get stuck. There was concern, the beauty of this site is there's multiple ingress and egress, at least, there's 2 of them. There's actually 3. There's one a little bit further east on the other side of the Honey Baked Ham. But I don't know that I have a real strong opinion, other than there has been some concern expressed by some of the residents about exiting of our western driveway next to Clay Street.
Clay, it's Clay.
Clay, right.
Okay.
So I don't know, again, typically when you direct traffic on site, it's to preclude cars from queuing up out into the arterial road. So what you're describing, while that could happen, I think would be very rare. It would only queue a car in the parking lot. It wouldn't put it onto Manchester Road. So the public wouldn't be at harm. So I don't know that it's really necessary. I understand what you're saying. You're looking at that queuing diagram that we created in there, and you're seeing that a car could be not in Manchester Road, but block the driveway. I think we would prefer to have the flexibility and let it be self-maintained. Again, it's not a heavy traffic coming through that pickup window, the way it sequenced door up, car in, transaction, car out. They can look left, they can look right. They have very good visibility looking in the parking lot. There's really nothing inhibiting it. And so requiring it to make a right turn, in my opinion, is probably unnecessary.
You can stay there for a second, George. Russ, can I ask Jonathan, do you have any
Absolutely.
comments on that? And you don't have to, I mean, I don't put you on the spot.
Maybe just, I just want some clarity maybe, because I think I heard 2 different things. So I think what George clarified, I thought was the first what I heard. So you're not looking to restrict the turn exiting the site onto Manchester Road. you're just looking to prohibit somebody pulling out of the bay, still internal on the site. You only want them while they're internal to the site to go right and not left.
Correct, yes.
Okay, see, I thought it was Manchester Road.
I
we were
did too.
talking About.
Oh, I did
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
This arrow right
I'm
here.
talking about like maybe inside the bay,
Okay.
it says
Right.
right
Okay.
turn only,
Right.
or I don't know.
Got it.
And I mean, I think on staff side, we would agree that usually we look at those restrictions to limit or avoid congestion to the public roadways, right? Again, I think if they're, I don't know, I don't know that it's warranted. The city engineer is here as well. I don't know if he has an opinion on, this is the first staff has heard of it, so haven't had a whole lot of time to think about it,
Sorry.
but anyway, that, I just want to make sure that was clear because it wasn't clear to me, so, but.
I mean, it's one of those things I would think that the first time or second time somebody does that and you got cars on your lot, that you're gonna probably put a stop to it yourselves.
Yeah,
would be
I
my
think it's,
guess.
I totally understand. If you look at the diagram and you see the cars queued around, that the drive could be blocked for somebody exiting, trying to get out to Manchester Road. But again, that queue is internal to the parking lot, not causing a negative impact to the public safety of Manchester Road. So, yeah, it's one of those that could be self-monitoring if it appears to be a problem, which I mean, I cannot envision that being a problem. I think we actually have improved. The overall site plan, I think, is much better than what's there today.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
angle parking and diagonal and the one way around the north side. So I think it flows really well. And it might be, not necessarily necessary at this time, but again, it's one of those, Mayor, as you suggested, self-monitor once in operation.
'Cause you don't want that happening right in front of you.
No.
There's a problem.
No.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Well, George is standing.
Well, I just
Councilmember
have a
Ward?
question. If that is put in place, how is that policed? How is that managed? What if you violate that?
If somebody came out of the bay and went left instead of right.
Yeah, it's still,
Enforcement becomes, what?
Yeah,
Be self-policing is the
Right,
short answer.
right.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
All right, so we have, yeah, I think my thought on it is, I think because it is internal on the site, I think it's gonna kind of take care of itself. So, so I won't support it. So any other questions or comments on the proposed amendment to limit? Councilmember Shears?
On the left and right turn?
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think it's
Yeah.
Probably not a concern, and if it does turn out to be, it would be, and I'm also reluctant to try to control things internally. Unless we have to, so
Mhm.
I would not support it, and for those reasons.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, then all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I changed my mind.
It's a great quality.
Quality. We talked about this yesterday.
I
Getting more
take
information
that
and
as,
changing your mind.
we had zero in favor, 7 against. So, all right. Okay, any other questions or comments from council on the bill itself? Let me go. Nancy, did you have everything
Oh.
here first tonight? Okay,
Oh, no, thank you.
okay, Councilmember Zimmer.
Yeah, just a few comments. I hope that the signs, there were some concerns from the neighbors directly to the north of the property, concerned about noise. I'm certainly hoping that these signs placed will be forced and that, that noise will be alleviated. I also talked with Mr. Raish about the lighting. There were some concerns about lighting. I know currently the lights that are attached to the building now shine right into somebody's backyard. But speaking with Mr. Raish about the lighting plan, that the lights on this new site are going to be improved to where they're not shining into the backyards, where the lights are facing downward towards the lot, and that will be corrected. That's all.
Anything else from council? All right, seeing no further questions or comments, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
The bill passes. Move on to Bill 10982.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance appropriating $25,000 from the Equitable Sharing Fund balance to the Police Department training account for training for the police department.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 10983.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 8, Section 14-393, Schedule C, no parking zones, by adding a no parking on the east side of Doherty Place from Doherty Ferry Road to a point 604 feet north of Doherty Ferry Road.
Any questions or comments? All right.
Nope.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Ward, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment on this more broadly, that I think we should consider a comprehensive parking study for a 5-block radius around that high school. We know there are other neighboring blocks where they have problems. And this group just happened to have a higher level of sophistication to move this forward. And I think we ought to be proactive and safeguard more neighbors around that high school.
All right. All right, anything else? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 10984.
So this is an ordinance approving the final site plan for a community unit plan and the final subdivision plat of a 6-lot subdivision on the property known as 600 North Ballas Road, a tract of land being in the south half of Section 34, Township 45 North, Range 5 East, in the city of Kirkwood, St. Louis County, Missouri.
We've been advised by staff that there's been a little delay in their performance guarantee letter of credit from the bank, and it should be here by June 1st, our next meeting, but it's recommended that we continue this until that is received. So is there a motion to
So moved.
continue this until June 1st? We have a motion. Is there a second? All right, motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, Councilmember Ward.
And folks, that we have created quite a hazard for any children or adults who want to travel by foot from that subdivision. We don't have, you'll have to sprint across Ballas in order to get to a sidewalk on the other side of the street. And I think we should put one on the side of the subdivision and provide a safe egress and ingress to that subdivision.
All right, so we have a motion to continue June 1st. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. That motion passes. This will go back on unfinished business on June 1st. We'll go to new business, Resolution 58, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution amending Resolution 32-2021 with Sickish LLP for financial auditing and reporting services by increasing the contract amount at the rates provided in the fee schedule, copy of which attached here to and incorporated by reference herein, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, we have any questions or comments? Councilmember Gibbons?
Well, I didn't understand how much money we're talking about exactly. So maybe you could explain it to me. And I'm also wondering, and so how much exactly it's going up? And I was wondering if we shouldn't go have an RFP and go back and look at what other audit firms.
I'll give you my thoughts on that if you want to ask. Let Russ answer first.
Yeah, sure. This is an increase of $3,000. They did not have an increase during COVID between now and the beginning of COVID. So this is kind of a makeup increase. We feel it's within range of an appropriate level for an adjustment for the circumstances. And we do bid out our audit from time to time. And we last did that about 3 years ago, I'd say, maybe 4 years ago. Sikich won based on their expertise, their familiarity with the city, and their reasonable rates. And these are really still quite reasonable rates.
My thought on is for $100 million plus budgeted city, this is very reasonable. And when it comes to professional services, I think if you've got somebody who's, well, you're on the audit committee, I mean, they're very good. They do a good job. I think it's got to be something that's outlandish, which to do that right. So that's my thought on that. All right. We have any other questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 59, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution appointing and reappointing members to various boards and commissions.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And we got a motion and a second. We do need one amendment inadvertently under library board. Kevin Miller, his name was placed there. He's also on park board, which he should be. So I just need a motion to remove Kevin Miller's name from library board. Is there a second? I've got a motion and a second. Councilmember Dewey. Any questions or comments on that motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, all opposed, say no. Motion passes. Any questions or comments on the resolution itself? Councilmember Lizzo?
I would just, thank you, Mayor, for putting all this together. I'm not sure all of our citizens are aware of what a major contribution, the people who populate our boards and commissions and the important, some are statutorily required boards like Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning. But it's really, I think, a really rewarding, experience to sit on the boards and can also be fun at the same time. So, if anybody's hearing my voice, please consider for next year, filling out a profile, checking out the boards and commissions, their missions and various areas of expertise and, consider getting involved.
Thanks for that encouragement.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
And I would hope, Mayor, that by next year we'll have professionally developed training manuals for those board members when they come on.
All right, any other questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 60, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution amending Resolution 54, 2023 for the purchase of energy block power for the month of October 2023 in the amount not to exceed of $343,832 from TransAlta for the electric department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 61, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of CLC Engineering LLC in the not to exceed amount of $102,738 for professional design services for the Sugar Creek substation for the electric department and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I got Dewey and Zimmer again. Any question? Excuse me. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo. Yes. Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 62, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources State Revolving Fund programs for loans under the Missouri Clean Water Law, Chapter 640 RSMO.
Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Lizzo?
I was just wondering if we could have the city engineer, come and explain this whole program and,
For us or who?
Oh,
who
I have
what
no
you
problem
explained?
with
Yeah, whoever.
Chris coming up.
or
absolutely.
Russ,
Yeah,
whoever.
yeah.
Or Bill.
Or Bill.
Whoever's
Or Bill.
most comfortable.
Well, I will attempt to explain it. Bill put the application together, but I have a baseline knowledge of it. So this addresses lead service line within the city of Kirkwood. And so for water service lines to private homes. And so we're applying for a grant for $2.1 million to start a program to address lead service line to replace those.
So this is to help low-income homeowners replace lead service lines within their house, or I don't really understand. But this is lead service lines.
No.
Sorry,
I'm gonna change that over.
I
to-
understand.
sorry.
Oh, here comes, my understanding is this something that we have to do. Is that correct?
Yes, the state EPA and Missouri Department Regulation and requires a lead service line inventory, which we are in the process of completing. Okay, we have to have that done by October of 2024. Okay, but we're well ahead of schedule. Just recently, we had a grant opportunity from MoDNR that has some infrastructure money to apply for a grant to create a lead line service line replacement program, which we haven't developed yet, and then to do replacement of lead service lines. And it's the portion of this lead service line is from the city's main to the house. It has no internal plumbing whatsoever. This grant has no internal plumbing. So that's what as far as to start the program. Right now, we have known 530 lead service lines in our system, but part of this money is also we have 1,500 and something unknown. We don't know what they are. So we have to get a company to come in to go to those 1,500 and identify if they're lead or non-lead. So this has different facets, how to develop the program, how we want to fund the program, hopefully through the grant, we'll fund some of it. And then equity is the other thing, is how is an important aspect of it, because in the program, when we're developing program, we can decide who gets it first, who gets the money first, which lead lines get replaced first. Okay. And that can be something that's discussed during the development of the program on how we're going to decide what lines get replaced first, service lines.
Based on like what prioritization?
It could be
Most
equity,
risk
it
of
can be home
of
income.
lead, or
It can be,
or maybe a cost share thing like our sewer laterals, or?
yep, I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm not going to be here, but you can develop it anyway. It could be just like the sewer lateral program. It could be 100%. It could be things that we talked about, like with Russ in a lot of our codes in the building codes. Sometimes you have to improve the size of your service, the electric service coming into your house. Okay, because it's not enough. We could do something where when you move into a new house, you have to change the lead service line before you sell the house. Okay, there's many facets of how you want to do the program, but that'll be up to you at that time. In how we go about doing the program.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask a question, and again, just thinking ahead. I mean, normally the service line is the property owner's responsibility.
At this time, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so this could be a case where, the city could, whichever way it's figured out, fund it. Would you anticipate the city actually doing the work, or would the homeowner contract with it? I'm just curious.
I would think the city would either like the sewer lateral service, where the resident would go pick the person out of a pre-authorized list and use one of those folks. Or the city, Missouri American is going to be doing all of the lead service lines at their cost. Okay, so it's a long duration program. So they're doing it at their cost, and they're actually one of the things that when you talk about in the program is that they're also doing, when they do water main replacements, they're replacing everybody's service line. Right now, we don't do that. Okay, we just reconnect them to the main. Okay, but if it's a lead service line, we could at that time upgrade that at our cost also,
Okay.
as we go through the process.
So a lot to be determined,
A
but. this
lot
is
to be
just for the
determined on
grant
how you want to
application,
do it.
right?
And, the only deadlines are to have our a plan completed, or have our inventory completed and have a plan completed. But then from there on out, the implementation is based on available funding to
Okay,
the municipality.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Chris.
Mayor, I
Oh.
want to strongly recommend that we use reverse alphabetical order for determining if deadlines removed.
Starting with V though, right?
Yeah.
Start with V and go backward.
Well, I think that'd be inappropriate. I think you want to start with E.
You're
Or
lumped in
W.
with him, Mark, All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo.
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey.
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 63, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution of the Kirkwood City Council endorsing St. Louis County's grant program for the city's waste reduction efforts.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
For a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Gibbons?
Do we know when we're gonna know about this grant?
Award should be sometime in mid to late July.
Okay, and I really like that the schools are included in it. The American Recycling Day, I didn't know we had one, but an Earth Day, but it also says that attached commitment letters. Do we have those?
We just recently received one from Republic Services that we'll be attaching to the application.
But it also mentions in here partnerships with Kirkwood School District, Farmers Market, Business District, Library.
We will partner with all of them for the public outreach.
Okay, so you don't need a letter of commitment from
No,
them?
no.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Anything else from council? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo.
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey.
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 64, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of Precision Concrete Incorporated at the rates provided in the bid tab sheet, copy of which attached here too and incorporated by reference herein. Amount not to exceed budgeted funds annually for public sidewalk concrete cutting program for the engineering department for an initial term of 12 months with the option to renew for up to 4 additional 12-month terms, pending budgetary approval, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? I guess I'm gonna ask a question. When it shaves down, what do you do if the color changes? I'm sorry. All right, question, all right.
At least it won't be white.
I can call Bill up to answer
Yeah, that's
that.
right.
Or Chris.
I saw a couple hands over here. I think
Aye.
Councilmember Ward, you're first.
Yeah, I recall a while back, we had kind of a binary contract situation with the concrete workers. If somebody fell behind, we'd give to the alternate. Is that part of this?
Not specifically. This is citywide. So we also have contracts that remove and replace concrete slabs. And those are, we have a contractor for the north half of Kirkwood and a contractor for the south half of Kirkwood. So this would be citywide.
Okay, so So there's three situations going there?
Yes, yeah. So we would utilize this scenario where you have a very minor trip hazard and you have a long string of them, say in a block. And they are very efficient in addressing the trip hazards in this manner where they're basically shaving up to 2 inches, but typically and down to a 1/4 inch.
Okay, and one other thing too, and I also remember that I was really curious that we were gonna get to. It was an outfit that came and made a proposal where they would just pick up the existing slab, level it and put it back down. What happened with that?
We did a few sections of it and their costs were higher than what they anticipated. We did a few places of it, but they are no longer around.
Is that something that would be feasible in-house?
But potentially, but it does require additional labor and equipment.
Yeah, but not much skill.
There is skill required for it too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thanks.
Councilmember Gibbons?
Well, I believe it was just Tuesday, St. Louis County made a rule that, or code that you can't jog on streets. But that doesn't apply to us, right?
Actually, it does.
Oh.
At least I read it did. It was going to apply in all cities unless they had a stricter ordinance, is what I read.
Oh, wow.
Now, whether I read correctly or wrong, whether what I read was correct or not, John may know.
I have not read the legislation. Typically, St. Louis County's ordinances have applicability to all municipalities if they deal with public health safety issues, such as sanitation. So when it comes to sanitation, when it comes to health issues, St. Louis County controls and it would apply to everybody. The smoking ordinance that we had years ago is another example of that. Again, the jogging in the streets or walking in the streets, I would not consider that to be a public health safety issue. I don't, candidly, I'm not sure how they would enforce that within the city of Kirkwood. We would not, our officers would not, because we have not elected to go that far. So unless someone tells me otherwise, St. Louis County does not have jurisdiction over our residents walking in or jogging in our streets.
Good.
Are you walking in the streets? Liz?
Well, I mean, we have uneven sidewalks. We do, and
And we're the
running,
only
jogging-
municipality in the county
Well,
who does.
no, but, so I think we should, at this point too, remind our residents that they can let us know when they find a trip hazard on our sidewalks by going through the app, the Kirkwood Connect app. I think it's a great app. And so, people need to know that they can let us know that. Are there a certain number of cuts that we can do for the cost that we're paying, or how does that work? Is it a time thing? What?
I'm not so sure
Well, they gave us a
fully
total,
complete your
but does that total dollar amount equal number of cuts or?
So the way we arrived at the amount was what we would anticipate doing per year. And so it may fluctuate, it may be lower or may be higher. But that was based upon how many complaints we've received in the past that we can address in this manner that's below 2 inches that we wouldn't have to replace the slab.
Well, I mean, this is just going to help make us a more walkable community like we've wanted to do. I also want to remind people that they're responsible for making sure that branches and brush are cut back because it's all over the city. There are bushes pushing into our sidewalks. So.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Anything else from council? Councilmember Zimmer.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry,
Chris?
Thanks, Chris, coming back. Talks about cost saving versus just repairing or replacing a whole slab, or I guess two slabs if they're not even, to replace both of those. What kind of cost savings do we see from this process versus replacing two slabs?
Yeah, so not only cost savings, but there's environmental benefits, but you don't have fuel and trucking costs. But the cost savings is significant. We're looking at almost like 60 to 80% savings of cost.
Huge.
And also disturbance and time it takes to address. And so typically, if you're removing and replacing, that process is at least a week, 2 weeks. And then people are walking around the excavation. So this process is a much smoother process.
Yeah, that's great. Have you seen an example of this shaved application?
We have 2 locations in Kirkwood that we've done on the 200 South Block of Clay that you could go and view today.
Have to do that. I know the grinding, it sounds like a good idea, but in reality, it really just kind of created a hump. It really didn't flatten it out.
Yeah, grinding we've done in-house traditionally, and you don't end up with an ADA compliant slope.
Yeah.
And so this is a much more smooth transition.
My last comment, just to kind of piggyback off what Councilmember Ward said. It seems in theory that it would be so much cheaper to just lift up a slab and level it out, but apparently that is not the case.
No, there's quite a bit of work associated with that, with lifting the slab, placing rock, and a lot of times you have to put it down and it may not exactly be level, so they have to take it out, put more rock in.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of guesswork, and a lot of skill associated with that.
Well, this is great cost savings, so. And
But it
ADA
does take color
compliant.
matching out of the whole.
Yeah, I have,
Matches
I
better.
have a problem with that, Chris. I have a real problem with it.
Yeah, because we want them all white, so.
Right.
That's right.
Uh,
All right,
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Seeing no other questions or comments, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 65, 2023.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an OMCI stormwater reimbursement program agreement between the city of Kirkwood and Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District for a citywide stormwater master plan.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Move on to city council reports. Anyone have anything? Councilmember Gibbons?
The Art Commission installed a new art exhibit at the K-PAC over the weekend, and it opened yesterday. 3 new artists, a photographer, a pen and ink, and an abstract. So just citizens can go there and see it. And the K-PAC is now open, I think, Monday through Friday from 10 until
10 to 4.
4. So citizens should go enjoy that. The farmer was repainted and is back at the farmer's market, the sculpture of the farmer. Lights at the amphitheater. There were 2 up on the high poles that had been out for a long time. And one of the parks guys climbed up there and they were able to fix it for $300. And now these big, nice lights. There are 13 other lights out at the amphitheater. And they are going to cost $800 a piece. So they're looking at, they might be able to replace a few of those this year for the concert series. So.
Yeah, we're actually looking to see if we can replace all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I'm working on that.
Okay, great.
So.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great facility.
Yeah, and
Like
we
it.
don't want to replace just a few for the concert series
Right,
if we can do better.
Yeah, okay, good. And then just the library, the summer reading program kicks off this Saturday from 10 to noon. The Bubble Bus will be there, very popular. The Book Caboose will be back at the pool starting on Saturday for the summer. And then the library's endowment right now is 1.6 million, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes, on May 26, 1853, interested parties came west to stake out land in Kirkwood. And there's a movement, and I believe it's maybe on the city's website, Russ, to make Friday, May 26, 2023 as Kirkwood Day, to celebrate and spend time in Kirkwood, to shop, dine, and enjoy Kirkwood. So I would encourage all of our residents to get out, and celebrate Kirkwood on the 26th. There's also a free band performance at the K-PAC that night.
Thank you, Mark. Anything else from council? All right, Chief Administrative Officer report.
Mayor and council, the city did receive an application for a temporary outdoor promotional variance from Hello Juice, 10,463 Manchester Road, to hold a Hello Juice and Gateway Pet Guardians fundraising and adopt a pet event on the parking lot on June 17th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The application would require a vote, includes a request for a tent permit, and the request needs council approval by voice vote.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, a motion, a second, and Laurie gave us all a little diagram earlier, so thank you for that. All right, are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes. That it, Russ?
That's all I have.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you. City Clerk report.
Yes, Your Honor, I have two things to report on. First is the report of the May 17th, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. By a vote of 9-0, the commission recommended approval of a mixed use and B2 final site plan for the Kirkwood Apartments at 300 North Kirkwood Road. Because the final site plan is consistent with the approved development plan in Resolution 133-2022, a public hearing is not required. And second item I have is scheduled upcoming public hearings. We have two public hearings on June 1st, 2023. The first one, a request for a zoning code text amendment related to mixed-use development requirements. The second, a request for a development plan for a proposed mixed-use condo development at 132 East Monroe Avenue. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. So regarding the mixed use in B2, that comes to us next, correct? Is that a resolution? Okay, and we can have that on at our next meeting since there's no public hearing. So that will be on June 1st. Okay. Thank you. Let's see, I think that is it. So next meeting, City Council will be on June 1st, 7 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.